Request.
Second.
I'm always requesting, but today I'm here for God, right? Well, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here because Christine and you both have kids in my program, and you guys, the commissioners, have gracefully listened to my reports for many, many years. Pete was in charge of a lot of those financial things when COG was subsidizing programs that they didn't even think were possible in Trinidad, Colorado, but we made them happen. So today, I'm here just to remind you that the Early Learning Center for South Central Council of Governments have mobile infants, age 1, toddlers, age 2, toddlers, age 3. We have the preschool program for both Honey School District and for School District 1. We have before school programs, we have after school programs, and we have summer programs. So it's comprehensive services for our whole community. If we don't go to work, our community doesn't go to work, and they don't go to school. Our first responders can't go to work. We're consistent, we're dependable. We're open from 7:30 a.m. every morning to 5:30 p.m. every night. Our families can depend on us. Recently, we've gone through the budget season. Pete taught me all about budget, how to make it a plan and how to make it work, and we've made it work for numerous years, beating every funding bush that's been available. In years past, we had to go to DHS directors and explain how much it takes to fund programs like we're running for this community. And the Colorado Child Care Assistant Program has not always been our friend. It helps us immensely, but it does not by any means meet the needs of what child care costs today for those working families and those high-risk families. Recently, we got into a budget crunch, and so we're trying to make that work. But let me just explain, in the past, we battled that CCAP trying to get that reimbursement that we've already spent reimbursed to us through the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program, and it was tough. Well, then the state intervened, and they kind of helped us from the top down, saying, yes, we're realizing that, and Trinidad's not the only one that's having those difficulties. They're having those difficulties across the state, and many child care programs closed. But COG subsidized us, and we through that rough time, and then all of a sudden, the House Bill 13-1291 came along, and the Hula Council, Jennifer and I, were at that point, specifically Senator Crowder, to say how would that House bill affect us here in Trinidad, Colorado. And it went through, and it allowed funding for infant and toddler programs that parents can't even begin to be able to afford what it costs, especially insurance costs. It went through, and it took our CCAP reimbursement funding from $25 a day to $44 a day for the past 3 years. We were so fortunate to be a quality program that qualified to be a part of that funding source. And in 30 years of doing this work, I thrived. I got to spend dollars on Post-it notes. Ooh, I got to buy supplies for the classroom. I got to train my staff effectively. Not just my staff, but the rest of the staff in Trinidad as well, and Walsenburg. We got to offer staff incentives, reward those people for their hard work, and maybe that was just a $200 stipend at Christmas time to say you're doing a great job, because most of them are at a poverty level and qualify for Medicaid. But then I kept saying, there's going to be a cliff effect, there's going to be a cliff effect. Okay, let's just take advantage of it while we can, because life is good. And then the cliff effect came today. And we went back to that $25 a day for reimbursement for our infants and toddler programs. And then COG said, you know what, we can no longer go back to subsidizing those programs. We just aren't a funding source, and we cannot make it work any longer. So I went to Arlene and I went to Jennifer to see what we could do on a local and on a state level to see how we could get that $25 back up to $44 so that our foundation is laid. Our preschool program is working. Christy paid those bills for so long, and we get half of a PPOR for preschool kids. And we just want the same kind of funding source available for those infant toddlers, so we're not constantly constantly subsidizing them with other programs. So what we're asking for, the budget's at $85,000 for this coming year. I'm asking for that day-to-day thing from $25 to $44 in CCAP, so that we once again can flourish, we can thrive rather than survive. What did that look like? We trained our staff, matched funding for grants for our playground installed still from those dollars, and it's looking like a great place for families to go. We also provide full-day programs where a lot of programs had fundings cut. They cut their programs to supply services for our families for full day so that they can go to work and kids can get a quality preschool education. And then the high-risk kids and toddlers, they have infants and toddlers, not just drop in for an hour, pick them up, bring them back an hour later because they have a class at noon. Oh, by the way, all the kids are sleeping at noon from noon to 1. So we partner with DHS. I've been part of the child protection team for probably more years than most of the staff have been there. We work with them for placement for the high-risk families. A lot of times it's emergency placing. Mom and dad went to jail or whatever that scenario will be. We're there for a prime quality place for those kids to go. Not just any place that has a child care slot available. We work with the courts. I've gotten really close with Judge Gerbach, and we provide the court-ordered supervised visits for custodial families. We provide that service and give full report and documentation to the courts. We partner with the Senior Center. The intergenerational programs that we provide are so crucial. I wish you could see the glorious things that happen. I don't know if the kids benefit more or the seniors benefit more, or if I benefit more from seeing the magic that happens in that program. We partner with BOCES. We try to provide early intervention. So if a child needs speech therapy, then that foundation has already been laid, and the work that we've already done carries it. And many times we partner with the Primero School District as well. And HULA, we help sing praises of the importance of early childhood and brain development. We work with TSJC. We provide services for TSJC through state funding. We get our staff into a program that they've threatened for years. And then yes, we graduated to the legislature to say, this is what those bills they're talking about look like in Trinidad, Colorado. Line items, I took my budget, I broke down every equipment, legal fees, audits, consumables, phone, training for staff, licensing fees, administrative and kitchen costs. Broke it down by every kid in every classroom. And we're getting right up to that $44. Right now, I haven't included kitchen and administrator. And now we run the risk of perhaps closing those 2 classrooms effective June 1st. All I'm asking for you is to invest in us. Invest in early childhood. But today I have my COG hat on. Invest in COG. We've supplied a lot of services for a lot of years, and we've made it look easy, and we haven't asked for a thing. But I guarantee you, if you invest in us, we'll give you more bang for your buck. We'll spend it wisely. Invest in us. Please help us to thrive in the early childhood field in Trinidad, Colorado, rather than just survive. Thank you.
The question that I have, and I appreciate all of the information that you gave us, is that if you knew there was a cliff coming, how did you prepare for that last year?
We very much did. We cut back. We invested as much as we could. We went to a 5-day week for families, and we found out that we couldn't afford the 5-day week. So with the school district in January, we cut back and we went to the 4-day week, and we offer childcare on Fridays. We did create a little nest egg, and that nest egg afforded us to have the carryover to help cash flow for COG, because we're still paying for our building. All costs attached to our building. We're self-sufficient. And we've been coming up with a carryover every year. So I invested in that and I saved as much as I could. And they allowed me to keep that rather than to put it into the general fund of COG, so that we'd have that cash flow for the first couple of months. And that's what we're surviving on right now, January, February, and then our school district kicks in and helps the longevity of funding. So it did. I created a nest egg, and that's what we're living on right now.
Okay, well, come up here if you like.
And Deb just pointed out, I just wanted to make it clear, we would have had to end this program at the end of December if COG had not banked enough money to carry us through the rest of this school year. And that's why we gave ourselves January through May to try to find additional funding to make up for that. So we've been putting the money back, but we can't carry it into the next year. And like Deb said, we're not a funding agency, so we certainly can't carry it on to future years.
The question I have is, how long will this funding last for? How long will the funding last? This $85,000?
Oh.
Just the remainder of 2018?
Yes. Then we have to come up with a longevity. Now, Jennifer will tell you that the state is also working on that, because we're not the only county that's struggling with that. They knew on the state level that there was going to be a cliff effect. And then they created the tier reimbursements for quality centers, and we're at the top of that tier to be eligible to receive the maximum amount of funding. But the state, of course, isn't quite there yet. There is a gap between the time that the House bill ended and the new funding source starts. And so that gap would be this year, and hopefully their timing would, the last time that we asked for funding, it through CCAP to avoid closing our doors, the House bill came in, I'm not kidding you, within days of us closing our doors. So I'm trying to be proactive this time and get us some short-term funding and see how that would play into the long-term funding. But if that doesn't come through, again, we'll have to show the state exactly what that looks like in our county, and then work with our local county and you to see how we're going to get through this. Because we're the only ones that offer that service in Trinidad. And we don't even offer the infant care because it's just outrageous. The risks are high. The food program is very labor intensive, and it's very expensive for insurance and such. So we don't offer that program. But if we were thriving, we would be looking at adding programs rather than taking away programs.
I'm a bit confused, and that's not unusual. So Walt just said that you have enough money to run through the end of June.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the $85,000? What does that do?
With the $85,000, that would help us to run through June.
So with the funding that you have to run through the end of June, what does that do to your program if you don't get the 85?
We'd run it as long as we could, and then have to start looking at what, once it goes into a deficit, then we have to say, what are we going to do? Right now, we can cut back staff, and we can cut back food costs, and that kind of stuff, cut back supplies and equipment, which we're used to doing for years and years. But it takes a lot of supplies and equipment. There were times when our budget, the main things were staff and food. And so we just have to make other cutbacks to survive that time period.
So with the 85 and what you have saved, that would run you through June?
Yes.
And then the program would?
Actually, through December. We have enough to get us to I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that. We have enough to get us through May. The $85,000 would help us to get through December. But the reason we didn't do that this year, go through December, is it would put families out of care and not be able to go to work January 1st rather than June 1st.
Okay, so you have enough money to get you through May.
The additional funding will get us through December of 2018.
So if nothing else changed, then in 2018, on December 31st, it would go away.
Yes.
Deb, are you at capacity for the number of children?
We are at capacity in every program, and yesterday I looked A parent came in to check her status on the waiting list, and she was 12th on her 1-year-old waiting list. And she wasn't even last. So I have tremendous waiting lists, both in the 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old program. The preschool program is holding itself. It's at capacity, but we don't have a waiting list. But all of the infant toddler programs have a waiting list.
So you're at capacity in what respect? Space?
Slots. You can only have 10 1-year-old slots in our infant classroom. You can have 15 in our 2-year-old, 15 in our 3-year-old classroom, and all of those are full.
Okay, so you run out of space, basically.
We do. Every nook and cranny is filled right now. Must be doing something right.
So it's the 85,000, because the memo says from 0 to 3, because you don't get the cap, that is the CPAP.
CPP?
Yes.
We do now.
Oh, you
We
get funding
did
for 0 to
attain
3?
funding for, no, we attained Colorado preschool program funding for 3 to 5.
Okay, so the 85,000 isn't just from 0 to 3?
It's for 1 and 2-year-olds.
Oh, okay. That's where I was misunderstanding that. Okay.
Arlene, is there money in TANF?
There is, we have a TANF reserve, which is a big, long discussion. We do have monies in our TANF program, our Colorado Works program. We have a reserve which has been pretty stable for a number of years. We can use that TANF reserve for child welfare expenses as well as CCAP child care expenses. So there's a whole nother discussion that I would like to have with the board about those numbers as well as about the uses of and just about our general program costs, basic cash assistance to clients that are eligible, as well as diversion and our administrative expenses that go with that program. So, but that's a whole nother lengthy discussion.
Will some of this funding be available for, if they apply for it for the other entities in town? Like the Peas in the Pod and Baldino, if she goes back into business?
We could absolutely make some available for them as well. And we have to kind of just look at the number of children served in each program and look at our assets and make a determination as to how much each program, each facility would get.
Commissioners, I have a question. First of all, were you indicating that you wanted to address what those others are?
Come up here and
Jennifer.
Okay, so I'm not for sure if you, so with House Bill 141317, which is the new CCAP tier reimbursement, it is the state's initiative for all facilities to have a Colorado Child Care Assistance program, fiscal agreement. So your question about capacity and other entities, we are actually asking all 17 licensed sites to have a CCAP license serving orphan and Los Angeles County. So therefore, this need is going to continue to be an ask unless we get something sustainable in our bi-county area to serve children. So, yes, when you look at CCAP, the only ones that are not part of the CCAP fiscal agreement yet are our school districts that have preschools. And so the CCAP is going to be something that will be a further discussion. And how are we going to support that locally? That's the question, the long-standing question. And we know that in state for the CCAP, however, JDC has not given their discussion about that yet. So it is something that is going on in this legislation session. CCAP only funds 10 to 15% of all children across Colorado. Therefore, there's a lot of folks that may not qualify for CCAP due to the guidance that CCAP allows, which is working families going to back to school or families seeking a job. Our elderly population who are taking care of our children do not qualify for CCAP. And then families that maybe make that above or that $5 or $10 more, or even that higher bracket, they don't qualify for CCAP. So therefore, there is also a void to fill too.
I have a question, Jennifer. With regard to the availability or the recognition of the fall standards, how many of those child care centers do we have that are right now certified for?
So, Colorado Shines is the high quality rating system. It goes through 1 to 5. In our county, we have 17 sites. There currently are 3 that are suppressed. One is Branson School, they have suppressed. The other one is a World of Discovery. And then there is also another one, which is Mary Jo Baldino. They're suppressed and there's for various reasons.
What does that mean?
That means that they may not have children or to be part of that site, i.e. be closed or just not in any enrollment. The other thing is with that format, we have, so by county, I have 4 level 4 sites, meaning that they're at the top of the high quality. 2 of the sites, one is Spanish Speaks Child Care Center in Huerfano County and called Early Learning Center here in Trinidad. They missed the level 5 by less than 10 points, which means that they can redo their rating in 2019. The other sites that are a level, the other sites that are also in that is the Rocky Mountain SARE. They were grandfathered in when the Colorado Shines came about from the Race to the Top funding, a federal funding, the source that came in. And then we also have from there 7 sites that are level 2. Of those 7 sites in the Bi-County, they're level 2. Some sites are actually going on to levels 3 through 5. Peas in a Pod is one of them that she has actually clicked on the button and will be working through levels 3 through 5. Her rating can be up to 18 months from the time she signs an MOU with us. The World of Discovery is a level 2. Mary Jo Baldino was a level 2. Kitty Corner is a level 1. And then the other sites are in Huerfano County. And so we really promote high quality because we know high quality is a true investment in our children, our families. But it also helps with their cognitive, social, emotional, and cognitive and gross motor, fine motor, and other skills so that they are ready for academically to learn, but also creates that foundation so the children also have a lifetime of success and be self-sufficient. We know that there is investment for every $1, you get a $6 to $7 return back on your investment in the years to come. But the thing is with their high quality, not only does it prepare children to have those social emotional skills so they can go and learn in the K-12 system, but it also has them the adaptability so that when they can make choices and decisions later on in life. So we really do promote high quality as a state initiative. I work with councils, 33 other councils across the state, and I can say the cliff effect is something we are truly advocating for because we are seeing it in our communities. We are seeing doors closing. We are seeing that there's not enough funding for all children, not just CCAP. So I know that this is going to be an ongoing discussion. I hope it's going to be a very small but mighty discussion, but I know that we, by county, are going to have that sooner than later. And it's going to be something that is going to be a hard choice, and the question I always people ask us is sustainability. Childcare is a community service. Without childcare, we wouldn't have the qualified workers. And to have childcare at high quality brings workers to here because that's what they're looking for, a positive place that a child can go and play and learn. And so without the childcare, without a community service such as childcare, we often might miss out on some opportunities as doors might be closing. And this is not happening just here. It's happening across the state, and this conversation will continue on also into Hartford County.
Jennifer, may I ask, the child care quality, the higher rated ones that you've mentioned, particularly in Los Angeles County, are primarily in Trinidad, right?
Yes, there's actually a split, 2 here in Los Angeles County and 2 in Huerfano County.
Okay, so of those in Trinidad, have you gone to the city to ask for assistance from them as well?
So yes, I actually have had a meeting with Tara Marshall, a very brief meeting about questions of how we can work together as a city, county, and that was very, very, very preliminary From there, she has asked me to come up with some sustainability options, and then we'll meet again with Mr. Sun, and then proceed on. But this also has come up from the conversations with COG, with Deb, but also conversations I'm having in Horford County with my childcare centers. And I also am working with some other statewide organizations to see about sustainability options and what those may entail, and what option might be the best for the city, county, and so forth.
I have one last question, is that recognizing the size of COG and recognizing and funding mechanisms, do your other higher rated sites that are in Trinidad, are they aware that you have come seeking funding for COG alone?
I don't know on that. As far as seeking for funding, I've been very aware in our council meetings that we are seeking funding for all. Because this is a conversation a conversation that not only has taken place at our council meeting, it also has taken place with numerous sites about sustainability, overhead costs, and increased costs, i.e. minimum wage, rules and regulations where you have to have professional development, teachers that have a certain credential level, qualifications, your increased, whether it's taxes, utilities, whatever case may be, all those overhead costs continue to increase. And unfortunately, we can't ask the parents for more money because they can barely make the mortgage payment that they're paying for childcare right now. So yes, it has been addressed about in our council meeting numerous times. We actually did at our last council meeting. I presented them a proposal of where I was going for city and county ask and discussion later in 2018. As far as the individual, I've been across for all.
I have another question for Ms. Hartman, if we could call her back. Deb, you indicated that, or you mentioned that the $85,000 is not necessarily what you're requesting. You're requesting the difference between the $44 and the $25, which comes to about $19. So what does that difference come out to in your request if it's not $85,000?
That's what we figured during the budget
But
pieces.
what is that number compared to the $85,000?
I'm not sure of that number in that formula, because what we did was we looked at the budget as a whole. Because when the House bill used to come through, we got the regular CCAP dollars, and then the House bill subsidized it with that other $19 per child. So basically in our 1 and 2 year old programs, 90% of those kids enrolled right now are at poverty level, so that's what we based it on. And then we looked at it for the yearly, for the whole, through December of 2018, and then we looked at effective immediately, and then we kind of arrived at 85,000 through May 30th. So it's a different formula that we came up with, but I don't have that dollar amount.
I think I would, for review purposes, I think it would be beneficial to have that number, to say it would equate to X number of dollars, which is more than 85,000 or less than 85,000, because there again, it allows some opportunity for some understanding by DHS to know what the ask really is.
Right, and that's really what I've been working on, is our total amount of budget. I've been breaking that down by child, by classroom, building costs, staff costs, everything. And, you know, our fees are a little bit higher because we have numbers for licensing and maintenance and all of that. And we have a nice building for kids. We're not just in an existing building that happens to be vacant to give to kids programs, which was where we started out. But I would tell you that when Jennifer mentioned a lot of those, and I do, I'm passionate today about COG, because in the past I've shared everything in the early childhood community. But some of those, once you get in the higher regulated seat, then you have more mandates and more costs attached. And where Head Start is grandfathered in because they have federal funding, we don't have that other funding source. We just have little us. And that consists of our private pay, our Colorado preschool program, and Colorado child care assistance. That's it. And I can tell you that we've managed those full programs, full year, on probably a fourth of what those federal budgets
If I
are
may,
entitled to.
gentlemen, I was called by Ms. McDonald, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. I do apologize for the timing. But she was wanting to seek information about grant funding for children's programs. And is that recognizing that there's a lot of money coming to the Rocky Mountains, we would call it Head Start, from federal funds. We understand how that program works. There are two different centers. I don't know how we've ever even thought about partnering, but that's a lot of money coming through that center, which is my understanding is not as Qual-Star rated as the early learning centers. And yet that is the goal of the federal government. And somehow, I'd like to ask this one question and you could just nod in the affirmative and I'll say it, but is Head Start at your table?
At times.
Okay, understood, because while the entire time that we were working, there were times, they're just separate. But the other thing that I had indicated to Ms. McDonald is that when I had occasion, and this was prior to coming on board with the county, I had occasion to look at the ordinance with the city wherein they had identified to the voters of this community what they would be doing with marijuana funding money. And one of the things that they definitely stated was that they were interested in helping the youth of the community. And youth of the community starts at when they're born, in my opinion. And that being the case, I don't think that there has been such an ask. And if we are going to be seeing such long-term funding implications for children at the same time that there's legislation and current indicators that there is more interest in funding early learning centers, because we all know that that is in the best interest of the children and the community, it would appear to me that that is one that could be tapped. And more particularly since I know that, and I know it's not the sole reason, but the Noah's Ark received $400,000 for animals from the city marijuana fund, I believe. And I'm not making comparisons, I'm just suggesting that this is something that if it is that important to the community that we use this program. It is a very large county, as you know. And recognizing that the majority of the funding will go toward Trinidad children is another consideration that we need to consider. And
well, I think, and I appreciate all what you said. I think you opened up some things that we need to have answers to, and I think one of the things is the TANF funds, and we need to have a discussion with Arlene about that. We're not deadline. You've got enough money to run you through June. We'll see what happens with the legislature. I think there's a lot of things. There's some possibilities, and I appreciate you coming now, though, instead of coming on May 29th.
Time management is my friend, and those time, I've come down to, like I said before, prior to the very deadline. And CCAP is where we fund it because that's where the cliff effect helped. But Mr. Bolden and I have, in our finance department, have talked extensively about those other options as well as the city. Trinidad Youth Club came in and they got funding right away. We've been in existence for a lot of years and we haven't, if they allocate funding to COG, it doesn't always go to children's program. So maybe I need to get better about saying just COG programs, But at the same time, I've been an advocate for taking the whole community with us, other child care centers that don't have the resources that I do, and trying to be a leader in that. That doesn't mean can they help us with maintenance? Can they help us with yard maintenance and snow removal and those kind of things? So we're looking at every single line item as to how we can beat those bushes. It's not just the county we're going to. But we do provide more services on less money than other entities that have been grandfathered.
And what I would ask you to do is to, as you go down these paths, keep this treasurer apprised of what you're doing so that we kind of are in the loop a little bit. So when you're going to the city, you say, you know, we've gone to the city or we've gone to the state, we've gone to, let us, keep us in the loop rather than come back here on May 29th and say, well, we didn't get anything.
Right. I think we can do that. She taught me about budgets and I taught her about people. We have a great working relationship, and together we create a new dialogue that is really healthy for our community. Thanks for your time.
And just as an aside, when we got that early learning center, when the Council of Governments got it, Deborah always laughed because one of the things that was, I've never had children, and one of the things that just touched me mightily is going into those little classrooms, and I had to show all the visitors the little tiny bathrooms that they had, and it's just amazing to me. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. I think that early learning centers are absolutely needed in a community.
Thanks for your support.
So Pete, you asked about the city. When I went to go speak to Tara, she said there was a 5% for community service. She advised me it was a one-time ask. And about sustainability, that would be something that we would have to come up with about a sustainability plan when we present going forward in the future. And it would only be based upon so if you take 5% of what they get average, that's not much. It is much, but it's not much in a pot, because she mentioned there would be other organizations that are already asking for that 5% as well. And so I think there's going to be a lot of discussion as far as the importance of childcare and how that is such a crucial asset for recruiting industry as well as qualified workers for our communities. The ask was, I think they're thinking maybe very small numbers, like your 25, 30,000, when in fact, when we're looking at, if you look at 35 children, and there's a waiting list of 50 plus kids for infant toddler care, and you do that for 20 days, that's $700, I'm just putting this an estimate, $700 a month. And if you do that, $700 a month for one child, if you put that for 30 kids, you're looking at $21,000. If you do that for 10 months, you're looking at $210,000. Now, if you also include that there's also summer care, because our workers cannot just say, I'm off for the summer, and guess what, I don't need childcare. Unless you're a teacher, but you still have to work to make ends meet. So when you look at that, that's about around 200 to 300,000 just for those 20 kids then. So this is something that's not just a small of 85,000. This is something that's going to be huge that we're going to have to discuss. And I'm just using that as an estimate going forward. And I appreciate your consideration for further discussion. And I will let Ms. Frazier know about our continuous discussions with the city and look to present back to you folks.
Thank you all.
Commissioner Loudon, do we need a motion?
The table.
I wish I could talk. Yeah, go ahead. I concur with Mr. Loudon regarding getting more information in this, but I do see the need for the services you provide. And I'm behind having those services, but let's get everybody at the table and see what other funding is available before we look down the up. I really think the city should together and put all of our resources to supplement your program.
One comment I need to make too is that by the end of June, our state fiscal year, we are projected to be overspent in our CCAP allocation probably by about 60,000. So that over expenditure will also have to come out of our TANF reserve, our Colorado Works allocation to cover that. And we're looking to also be overexpended in child welfare due to high dollar placements that we've had a number of this past year. So we'll have to take care of that first and then kind of figure out what's left to assist. And Deb is very right that child welfare especially has depended on that program when we do take custody of children. And they're coming from very difficult situations, and we need to find a placement fast. Ms. Deb has always been willing to work with us and try and accommodate those children as quickly as possible.
One big motion to just gather information and to see what we need to do. Hopefully by March or April, we will have a direction and then we won't get in a bind come the end of May.
And one thing, Commissioner, we've got your motion, but I would like to ask for commissioners exactly how much TANF we have available in those reserves from now through the end of June, which is your new budget year starts in July, right?
Right.
So that would also help facilitate that and also give some kind of hope to the community of those who need this money. Maybe.
Second.
Okay, second. Commissioner Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Loudon.
Yes. Review and approval of reports, financial reports as of November 30th, 2017. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome to stay if you want.
Okay, I'll try and move through this quickly. Our financial reports through the end of the year are preliminary at this point. We're still waiting to make sure we have all the numbers from the state for adjustments or any kind of last minute reporting that they need to do for December. So our numbers are preliminary. But our revenue in November was $849,556. And our expenditures were $870,961. So our expenses again exceeded revenue by about 1%. Kind of the same situation in December. We had less revenue than expenditures. Revenue was $767,421, and our expenditures were $793,767. On the next few pages, you'll see the November breakdowns by program area. And you can see in child care that we're already about 100%. We're more than 50% spent in our allocation through our state fiscal year. At the bottom, you can see the totals for all the program areas, and then on the next page, you can see page 6, you can see our November expenditures as well.
I guess one question that I have, the low income energy assist, why are we behind on that?
Because this reflects the total year, so this reflects the first part of 17, and we don't get our money for LEAP until like October. So we have part of last year on this as well as part of this year already.
So we'll be running a deficit until next October?
Well, no, not necessarily, because the county budget year is the calendar year and the state is the July through June. So they kind of overlap on this report.
I understand, but the low energy will be running a deficit until next October when you get more money, or not?
No, it'll even out as we get through April pretty much. But all of that is 100% also, so.
And isn't the money come in July?
Not for LEAP.
Not for LEAP,
LEAP
okay.
comes a little bit later because the LEAP season doesn't start till October.
Right, I understand, but your new budget year starts in July.
July, yes. Yeah. So December kind of looked, it's the November single entry point at the end of November. Our fund balance is about $567,000 in single entry point. And of course, is the restricted fund balance. We did purchase the vehicle, and that was just a small dent in the reserve amount there. December, our revenue was, just mixed up, $767,420. Expenditures of $793 and $766. So we had a deficit of about $26,345 in December.
Okay, I have a question there, and again, I'm not very bright, so we have a fund balance of December 30th of $91,000 in arrears, and then starting on January 1st, we have a fund balance of $19,000. How do those compare? To me, that 91 was started out at where the 19 is, so I'm
Yeah, and we're looking at that, we're kind of backtracking on our reports, just to make sure that everything moved forward correctly. So that's why we're still waiting for some adjustments from the state, and we're checking our reports as well.
So the fund balance may be 91,000 in the whole, or it may be 19,000.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I would like to state, we did meet briefly, and basically, we, as Arlene said, we are going to be looking at that, but it appears more likely that it is the 91,000 number. Is that correct, Christie?
Yes, because we need to wait for them to make their adjustments for 17. So hopefully maybe by March, April, we can really see if it's 91 or more or 91 or less. Because they still need to make their adjustments for the audit. So because if they're like me, they probably have some accounts payable. I asked if they had any accounts receivable. She didn't think that she had any additional revenue coming in. She just don't know. So hopefully maybe by March or April, they might have their adjustments and we can really know what the county really owes.
And I make that distinction because I think that we should be conservative in our expectations here, because it may be the 91.
So for the total year, the state reimbursed 95% of our revenue, and approximately 3%, just a little bit over 3% came from county revenue. So again, that kind of, leads to our lopsided fund balances. Single entry point at the end of December, we're over 600,000 in fund balance there. And unfortunately, we can only use it for single entry expenses, and many of our overhead and administrative expenses are shared by single entry points based on the percentage of staff that is in that unit, so.
Commissioners, I think this is our quandary to see that this single entry point balance keeps growing, and it's 600,000, and our other source keeps shrinking. And so to that end, that's what we want to spend some time on. And question, Arlene, you did meet with Luis Garcia from the state. Are you going to report on that somewhere else? Okay.
Yes, and not today, because again, that's kind of a lengthy discussion, so, but in the near future.
And that is the fellow that is coming down to look and see that we are putting things where they need to be. A small side question, what happened to your arrest?
Just my rheumatoid arthritis has been flaring for a while. Stress related.
That's what happened to me.
Oh, I'm not.
Stress on the vocal cord.
Any other questions on the financials? I'm in a little bit of a point with how we do this, because there seems to be some discrepancies, so I don't know how to.
And we're looking at trying to make sure that we have all of our numbers in correctly. And so we are going backwards and moving forward again. So I can present an updated report probably within, by the end of February for sure.
I think that would be good. You could maybe table it to where you think is what might be presented as after what we call the 13th month financials. Are you doing something similar to that, Christy? Or
Yeah, I'm saying, 'cause if the 5-year financials, they wouldn't be actually correct right now, because I still have 17 in January. So I probably won't do anything until I actually start doing everything to give you an update.
And is that 13th month
Yeah.
is something that accountants are always talking about, because of course you have to make of all the times that you're going to make certain it's going to be that last part, so that you want to minimize the audit adjustments as much as possible, or any late invoices that might arrive or whatever.
Motion table until you have the funds.
There's too much discrepancy for me here, $70,000 difference between the fund balance. So I'd really like to
Yeah.
get that a little closer, get it within, 50,000, then I can.
Yeah, well, we're working on it.
I second that.
Commissioner Loudon. Loudon.
Yes.
And Commissioner Loudon.
Caseload counts by program through December 31st, 2017. All center log numbers.
So again, you have the breakdowns for each of our program areas, and sorry, the format looks a little bit different. Last week, we came to work on Monday, and all of our documents were gone from our computers. So I astonished, had to work on our computers for probably it took all week before all of our documents were restored, so I had to recreate this document. But through December, our Colorado Works program has allocated to eligible clients $690,534. Our old age pension through December had a benefit of $438,543 to eligible clients in that program. Our aid to needy disabled, for an average of about 63 clients a month, our total year benefit clients was $152,550. Food assistance, through an average of just over 3,000 clients a month, $4,595,020 distributed to food assistance recipients. That's a huge boon to the economy and the community. So that should be a plus going forward with the sales tax. And our Medicaid cases.
Are you aware that the Department of Agriculture is thinking about taking $500 million from the aid and giving it to the cotton growers? Are you aware of that?
No.
I mean, it's pretty significant, but they're considering doing that, giving $500 million to the cotton growers for their programs, and they're going to take it from this.
From the food assistance? No, I have not heard that.
No collected sales tax on that,
No.
food assistance.
So that's something you may want to kind of.
Yeah, I haven't heard or seen anything on that yet, but I'll watch for it. Our Medicaid cases, we're still having close to 6,000 members on Medicaid a month. per month. LEAP, we're at about $290,687 approved for low-income energy assistance clients. And that will continue, and then usually March and April, we kind of get hit hard by people turning in those last-minute applications as well. Our HCBS home care and single entry point cases, we're still roughly around 490 average monthly cases. Our adult protection, we had kind of a spike in these last months of the year, and we're running about 35 cases a month that were investigated and then ongoing to ensure the safety of those elderly individuals. Child protection, we've been kind of steady there and have about 17 kids out of home placement. And we lost a few from November, but we had the adoptions in November, so that accounts for the loss in children, which is a good thing. Still very busy in those program areas. And our call center continues to be very busy, and in 26 work days through November and December, we had 255 customers, 477 total phone calls in both of those months, and then you can see the breakdowns of the new applications that came in by program area that needed to be worked. Our correspondence that comes in daily by walk-ins or mail continues to run at a high level also. And each of those pieces needs to be documented and recorded and or worked if a change is needed to the case. To the caseload counts.
Okay, and back to what does FA mean, MA mean, AF mean, C mean? Okay.
Medicaid assistance, adult financial, which it would be like the old age pension, and aid to needy disabled. Colorado Works is CW. LTC is long-term care. And then, so those are new applications, and the add-ons are people coming in and adding another program to their case. And then the PEAK are applications that come through that PEAK application on, it's computer-based, and so people can apply for these programs through PEAK. And my staff does not like that PEAK application because clients are able to put in information and get approved for whatever program they're applying. Oftentimes the information isn't accurate, sometimes income isn't in there. Sometimes if there's another person in the household, that person isn't listed. So the staff backtrack all that information in order to work the case. So they don't like PEAK.
So I can put in any kind of information in there, and then it's up to you to prove it.
Yeah, and sometimes what happens is the eligibility span is approved like for a whole year, and it probably shouldn't have been in certain cases. So when it comes up for redetermination, then the staff have to re-verify some of that information, and people are taken off those programs they were initially approved for.
Is this PEAK, how is it operated, what?
It's a state system,
So we need to get that shut down.
and we would like to. I'm sure staff would approve like that. But again, it's looking, all that mobile technology and making it easier for clients to get access to services and benefits.
And I guess I'm old-fashioned that if you need something, you need to work for it. And that would be coming in and giving it looks to me like now what we're doing is redundancy, is that we're getting all this information in from the state off the computer, but we have to go back and verify everything, so why not just do it one time?
Yeah, and that's what we tell people. If you want to apply, come into the office, do it in face-to-face with our staff rather than doing the PEAK application. because then it saves us time in the long run, so.
So if you determine that they got something,
Because of how the program rules are. So it just depends on what program it is.
so the state, the counties, and everybody could be paying out some benefits that weren't eligible, but yet we have no way to get that money back.
Yeah. And, you know, because people have to report like resources, whatever they might have in bank accounts. Some of the programs, it's hard to kind of just figure out in our own minds why people are getting approved when they have so much in resources, but they're resources that are exempt. So, yeah, Obamacare was not heard.
That's what started that, was the Obamacare program.
Yeah. Okay, so that was all the caseload counts.
Motion.
Approved.
Second.
Commissioner Lovin,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez.
Yes.
Child support activity report as of November 30th and December 31st.
So, November, we had 1,148 cases. The collections were $129,964, which is a slight decrease from last year in November. Our year-to-date collections at the end of November, $1,627,380, which went to support children who have an absent parent. And that's down a little bit from our 2016 collections also. December, about the same number of cases, a little bit under in the collections at $123,730, 10% less than last year at December. But for the total year, $1,939,874 in collections. That's a 4% decrease from all of last year's collections. And there you can see some of the more specific details about the program. At the bottom of the next page, of page 17, you can see that through 3 quarters in 2017, we've received $10,000 or in the third quarter, we got $10,098 in incentives. And for the whole year in 2017, $42,983 in incentives. And the incentives are earned by the collections and the number of cases where paternity is established. We're still just not meeting our CSTAT goal. We're still just slightly under. The goal is 66% established, having an established court order in a case, and we're like at 62, 63. And it's disheartening to staff that they can never meet that state goal that they have us trying to meet. So, but you know, there's only 4 of them working almost 1,200 cases, so it. And then you can, on the page 18, 19, you can see what other counties earned in incentives as well.
As small as that is, I'm going to take your word for it.
But yeah, so that $42,000 goes back into the program costs, you know, that it takes for us to administer that program, so.
And that's already paid for matches, right?
No, it kind of helps cover the county match. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Oh,
We need to.
yeah.
Second.
So moved.
Commissioner
Yes.
Lovin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, our hotline MOU for 2018, and we're looking at about the hotline answering maybe January through December for us, and again, at a cost of about $3,330. So it's very similar to what we just recently signed, that this will be for 2018.
Did it go up at all in costs from last year?
No, not really. Our calls were really similar to the last one we signed a few months ago, as was the cost, so. They give us like the first 48 calls free, and then the next 150, they charge us $22 each. And then you can see the list of counties that are using the hotline full-time, and some that are pending going to the hotline as well. And Ms. Nelson has approved and reviewed the MOU for board approval.
You okay with it?
I am.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Commissioner Lopez
Yes.
and Commissioner Lutz.
2018 First National Bank Agreement.
And again, Pam has, Ms. Nelson has reviewed the agreement with the First National Bank. This is something we do every year, so that we can run our financials through the bank and do all of our financial needs through Trinidad First National Bank. The agreement is attached, and they are recommending on the bottom of page 1 that we put in $165,000 there. We currently had $130,000 when they brought this to us last week, so they're recommending that we just up that amount there. And then the signature page is there, as well as some new application sheets that they want us to fill out. Bob and I both have to fill one out, as does Commissioner Lambert, and Peach needs to fill one out as well. So Selena has the blank applications to complete.
I wonder if we can just make a copy of the ones that we just submitted. We just did the exact same thing for Matt and for Peach. I wonder if,
And it's at the First National, right?
I wonder if they could just make copies.
We just changed the account.
Well, I don't think on the application it doesn't have the account, it just has their personal information.
I guess that's a Pam question.
Yeah,
Does it have to be original?
If the bank would accept it.
it's just something they can
I
have.
say it's hard to ask them if they'll accept it for both, if they say no and fill out the application, but if they're willing to accept it, it's.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
just, and I just took them down to Kayla, Kyla,
Okay.
for Peach and for Matt, and copies of their driver's license, everything.
Okay. Well, just make copies and attach them there, and we'll go with that. Saves time.
Is that okay?
No, I just want to know why you want more money in there.
Well, it's just to cover it, I think, because like I said, we had $130,000 in there last week. And I think it's just to cover when we do have more than what we had put there. Because we had 85,000 last year.
81,000 or something. and
Yeah,
I guess that's
81,054.
a question I have the same as him. Why has it gone up so?
Kim
I can explain.
can explain that, because we did the same thing to ours.
So with this agreement, we have to put an amount in, I don't do your figures, but whatever the amount is, when we have the special payouts, the personal days, and the longevity, our payroll will go over the amount that we've requested. And so last year, ours went over. We had to send them a letter and have it signed by finance and by everybody that, yes, we are going to pay more than what we put in this agreement. So if we just put a bit higher, then we won't have to send extra letters during the year.
So you just kind of covered
Yes,
a really high point, okay?
yes.
Because what we upload to the bank, sometimes it's a little bit higher than their limit. Right now, our limit does, so that's why we want to raise that limit of what we upload.
Overdraft protection. Well, it's good for you. Yeah.
I read it and I'm approving this.
Informational items, number 10.
Okay, so, these are just for your information and when you have time to read. But Congress did approve the Child Health Plan Plus, the CHIP program, and we have 187 members on that program at the end of December, so their eligibility for the medical coverage for children and pregnant women will continue for another 6 years. So Congress approved that, and I know that was kind of causing a great deal of stress throughout the state in terms of how Colorado Health Policy and Finance was going to cover that. We were probably going to be able to cover it through the state for another 2 months, but this kind of ensures that 187 people in our county will have continued coverage for well into the future. Our basic cash assistance, and this document kind of ties into the next document, the pending CCI Health and Human Services items, but they're looking at raising the basic cash assistance allocation. That program hasn't had an increase in the benefit amount since 2009, and so, you know, that program has not kept up with cost of living, whereas the other programs have had automatic increases. So they're looking at increasing it by about $462 to about 588, 527 rather. And counties are a little bit concerned because they're worried that it will cut into TANF reserves somewhat. That was part of our discussion last week with Mr. Luis Garcia, who did come down and met with us. And right now, even with the number of cases that we have and kind of projecting it forward, if this did pass, and they were discussing it Friday at CCI, if it does pass, we would have enough, even in our current allocation, based on our past year's spending, to cover this and, you know, still have money to provide some services. It might decrease the services that we're providing to the Colorado Works clients that are in our, with the case management piece, in terms of us not being able to maybe help them with, if they do get a job, that some of those needs like work boots or some of our people we've helped with car insurance so they can get back and forth to their job or to training, those kinds of services that are allowable under the Works program. So, so that was discussed Friday at CCI. And then the next document, you'll kind of see some of the other bills and legislations being proposed for that affect DHS, the Children and Youth Mental Health Treatment Act, the Minor Victims of Human Trafficking, and whatever happens, whatever is decided at CCI and by CHSDA, you know, impacts the county departments in that either we have to start providing extra services. There's a little bit more information about the basic cash assistance proposal. And then there's information about the CCAP also there. Again, like I said, there's a lot of counties that are looking to be overspent in their CCAP allocations this year. And I'll provide that information here in the near future as well, the projection anyway.
Erling, may I ask, what kind of travel or training dollars are available to DHS for staff going to CCI?
It comes out of our regular admin. So I think in the past only the director has gone to the training. And then I know Catherine used to bring back information to the supervisors, you know, regarding their specific programs, which is what I have done also. It comes out of our regular admin, our $20.
And particular upcoming meeting in June is the one where you get all of the information about the upcoming funding levels for next year, right? Or for July.
We may, it comes at different times of the year,
Okay.
and usually we have a sense of the preliminary allocation
Yeah, because
by that time.
I recall that from last year. And, so in the DHS budget itself, there would be to save Sam Christie if she were inclined to go.
Well, I'm sorry.
I'm
Oh, but we've budgeted in our budget
okay,
for that. But I'm saying, are you talking about her financial percent?
yeah, and/or, yeah,
Yeah.
because I think that we have learned in this past several months that I've been here anyway, a great deal about the funding complexity of DHS. And when we're all at the same degree of understanding, I think that would be
Correct.
really good for the county.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
We usually give a tentative agenda of topics that are going to be presented for DHS, as well as the ones that CCI presents for county commissioners. So, we can maybe take a look at that and see if it would be worthwhile to send other staff. Okay. And then my last item is just a kind of a public thank you to all of you that worked so hard on passing 1B and 1C. I put it 1A and B, I must have been saying the alphabet to myself. But, we're happy to be on full-time hours. My staff is happy to be on full-time hours and not having to face payroll or furloughs again. So, it allows us to provide services to the citizens, to try and help families as best we can. And I know there were a lot of people that worked very, very hard on this, and so thank you to all of you and to the voters who passed this measure. So, and that's it for me. I have executive session.
Which one?
Which one?
4F, 24-6-402-4F, personal matters.
You want to read that? Do you have it?
Say it again.
You want to read that so that we have it on record?
Yeah, we're going in executive session under CRS 24-6-402-4F for personnel matters.
We'll pick 5. Take it down.
And then-
Let's see, you'll be back to the other meeting.
Yes, and so, what do you want us to call you?
Send me a text message or send Selena one, and then I'll come back up for your meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Are we going to have anything for the next after executive session?
Yes.
And I have a question.
I didn't think it was tomorrow.
In executive, I didn't come prepared with that.
Okay,
because
okay.
There's a lot that I need to look together for that, but I can, get on.
That's okay. I just wanted to know because I was wondering who's here.
Oh, okay.
Tom, we're going to go into executive session. We want to shut down, and then there will be an announcement after executive session and prior to our other meeting.
Yes.
So if we can just shut down and then call you back.
Sure, how long do you think you're gonna be?
45 hours.
45 hours, 30, 45 minutes, I guess.
Will you guys, I'll leave everything set up, will you guys text me and I'll come back?
We'll make sure you're back before we start the meeting.
Yeah, and this morning, I got a phone call right before